I remember that day, and it was funny because I had had a dream. The Lord had given me a dream a little bit before this that I had totally forgotten. And I wished I would have remembered it in the first 100 yards of this walk, but it took me 5 miles to remember the dream. And so finally I said, listen, I had this dream. I want to just tell you this dream. And so we sat on a log there, and I shared this vision dream with her that the Lord had given me. It was like this. We were walking together, hand in hand. We were running sort of like, the Prelp commercials, running through the meadow, and flowers, wildflower, everything is great, which really that's the way our life started, in a great adventure together. We had a lot of fun in the first couple of years of our marriage. And but as time came along and responsibility and financial, pressures and all these other things encroached upon us, things got harder. And in my dream, the terrain changed, and it started getting rocky, and it started getting steeper. And pretty soon we were getting weary and fatigued. And pretty soon we were holding hands, but somewhat just to support each other through it. And pretty soon we came to a hill. It got really pretty steep, and we were getting winded, and it was getting tough, and we were starting to get weary and tired, and it was very hard, and so our emotions started to follow suit until we finally came right to the edge of a mountain ledge, and we started climbing this thing together. We knew that the goal would be to get to the top of this thing, and we started going, and Nancy started getting very fearful in my dream. She started getting really fearful, saying, this is dangerous, we're going to fall. I said, don't worry, I've got you. And I was holding on to her with one hand, holding on to this rock cliff with the other hand, and we were climbing this thing, and I'd pull her up, and we'd just keep moving, and it got harder and harder and harder until we were almost to the top, but we had come to this place of complete impasse. I couldn't go anywhere else. I had her, and she was sort of hanging, and she was at the same time, in her fear, was hitting me, And on the other hand, I was clinging to this rock, and I was in a stalemate. There was no place I could go. There was no move I could make. If the only thing I could either let go of her and save myself, or we would both perish together and just hang on for as long as I could. And I realized that was exactly where our marriage had come. That was the place that we were. That was that impasse, that there was no option but to just get rid of each other and be devastated in the process, or to hang on as best that I could in my own strength. And I was hanging on in my own strength as best that I could, when all of a sudden, in my dream, the Lord looked over the edge at me and held out his hand. But he didn't take me. He offered me his hand. But the only way I could take his hand is if I would let go of the rock, or Nancy, and take his hand. And I knew he was just saying, trust me. If you trust me, I'll cover you. And that was a huge, I remember even in the vision, even to this day, I remember how incredibly terrified I was that if he didn't take my hand, it was over.